sorry, I feel like I'm intruding in your personal workspace. I don't mean to, but thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. You are. That's why we have it set up like this, because this is how we work.
That's what I heard. So I actually heard that this is actually how you guys make the music in the studio.
In a way, it's an interpretation of that, and we wanted the album to, the idea that we go into a studio, the three of us, and we make the music, we wanted it to be that way live, because that's exactly how it's made, and that's like a point of pride for us, is that we just go in, the three of us, and we make these records, and that's that.
Well, I read somewhere that you said, I think, that you're three friends who make music, and that's sort of exactly what this vibe feels like. What's a studio session like? Because I feel like with your creative minds, and even something that we've never seen anything like this before, like what's a typical studio session? Or are there no typical studio sessions for you guys? How does that go?
Does the not talking thing carry into interviews?
I'm giving him permission. He doesn't have to say any words. It's
fully,
all on you.
We should start dressing like Penn and Teller slowly. It's morphing.
Oh yeah, you should mime. Can you like mime or sign? That's not miming. That's not miming.
A typical studio session?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, how does it work?
It's funny because there's no formula, and if you think you have a formula, then I would argue you're doing it wrong. So it's pretty loose, and I always think that songwriters and producers are just sort of like grabbing at things. And I think the skill of doing it isn't necessarily this thing that other people don't have. It's more just like you just get good at grabbing ideas. Because like if you think about some of the best lyrics or the best sounds, like they're things that anyone probably could have done, but what makes a great producer or songwriter is to know to grab it. So like, unlike, you watch a film and you're like, how did they do that? I could never do that. But if you think about your favorite lyric, like it's probably something that you've said in one way or another in life. You just didn't think to make it the lyric.
Right.
So I feel like when we're in there, we're all just like grabbing at ideas, saying stuff, playing stuff, and seeing if anyone...
Yeah, it's kind of like we feed off each other.
He was inspired by you to add more.
I'm out.
I mean, I think that's really cool. I feel like, do you ever get to that, like, do you have a moment in the studio where, like, all three of you sort of go, oh my God, that's it? Or, I mean, what's that feeling like?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're wrong, and you realize that the next day, sometimes you're right. The whole thing is, I think it's funny that there's any ego in that profession. If you ever see ego in that profession, I think it's just a real reaction to how powerless it is. It's one of the most powerless things you could do. Because you're just so like, you're like getting so excited, and then maybe 2 hours later, you're like, have to be able to look at people and be like, it wasn't that. Yeah. And then you find something, and then the next day, the thing you didn't think was the thing. It's just a whole weird thing where you're just like, you just really have very little control. Yeah. I think it's a funny thing that when I talk to people, I don't know if people understand about the studio, it's not like you're in there like, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna do this. It's just like you're just kind of floating, hoping that something happens that's undeniably inspiring.
I think that's what's cool about your vibe is you sort of, I feel like you guys give yourself permission to have that creative freedom. You talk to a lot of artists and they don't because they're chasing a hit or they're chasing a sound or popularity. So I think that's awesome. Your album is awesome. It's so good. Everybody Wants You. I've listened to that 10,000 times. No, seriously. Where do you think this chemistry comes from? Because you guys all have, singer, songwriting backgrounds, all that stuff, and you come together, and now you have this chemistry, and it's such a cohesive body of work. I mean, how does that happen?
Jesus Christ, really? Is this really going to be a thing in the interviews too? Okay.
Now I think he's just messing with you, and it's really funny.
Fine. No? Yes, okay. I mean, it's just like...
How do you explain chemistry, I guess?
Yeah.
We actually had a conversation about this once before, where sometimes you just know what you don't want to do, and it kind of just steers you. It creates a path for you, like just knowing where you don't want to go in a song or in a vibe or whatever like that. You keep dialing in. But then once you have so many great people in a room, it's kind of like anything someone touches is usually inspiring. You know? Like you hear a loop or you hear like a melody idea, and it's inspiring immediately.
That's awesome. One more question. So I know that I also read that this project is sort of inspired by the origins of where you guys come from, your hometowns. You did 3 shows. You mentioned it during your performance: Chicago, Cali, and the one in New York I don't know, what was that like? Being up in your hometowns, in front of the fans, finally giving them the music you guys have been working on.
Well, Chicago, where Sam's from, was you ever watch True Blood?
No.
You remember in like season 2 when they all get possessed?
No.
You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen it? It's like where their eyes roll back in their head and they're just like...
They're into it, they're feeling it.
That's what that reminded me of. I'm talking about Sam's family, not the... like it was just like this like... It was like the room was really hot and people were just... It was really... But also like there's some crazy thing about Sam where like he's from Chicago, but that was like one of like his first hometown shows ever. Am I getting that right?
Oh, wow. That's huge.
So Chicago was really wild. Anyone who gets that True Blood reference gets
Anybody?
it.
Anybody get it?
Couple?
Nobody. You're on your own.
Remember with the woman who
Oh, she
represented the
gets
devil?
it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll talk. You'll explain it to me later because I have no clue.
Just possession and
Gotcha. Okay.
to be possessed.
Coming to your shows is to be possessed.
Your son.
Oh. All right.
But that was the most special one in terms of just to like feed off of that feeling of like Sam's home and he's playing a show and
Aww.
I mean there was the Wave had that in LA too, but there was something about maybe it was the heat in the room and
Right.
Chicago
Chicago's a
was just
special city.
Real wild, whereas like my family doesn't give a shit anymore. It's just like
They're just so used to you doing things like that.
yeah, their issues are more like Uncle Lewis wasn't on the guest list. Like
Here's our VIP passes.
Yeah, like-
oh, you're performing tonight too?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, just but Chicago was pretty. Wouldn't you say? I mean, did you feel it?
Yeah, for sure. Even LA and New York, it's because we didn't put this project out not too long ago, and to look in a crowd and see everyone knowing the words freaked me out that fast. Like that was an amazing feeling for me, for sure.
Yeah, that's the coolest because you never get too jaded. Anytime you do anything new, you're just like, who knows? So that's really the coolest thing. Sam's family aside, is to hear people singing all the words, not just the song that we were like, listen to this one.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing you really want when you do this is for people to, we live in a time where it's like there's all this like idea of like, it's not about albums anymore, but it still is. Like everyone loves albums; they define time. So you just want people to listen to albums.
Yeah. Just to say one more thing to you, your voice is just magic, and it was right, guys. And you just sat there and sang. Like, who can even do that? You didn't even break a sweat. And I was just sitting over there watching just people, their faces of people hearing your voice going. There was a bunch of people just coming in as they heard the sound of your voice going like, what is that? I got to see what that is. I mean, that's just amazing. And you guys, I really love the album personally. I think it's awesome.
I heard one person shout, "From the bucket hat?" They're all making signs.
I'm glad you brought this up because it's not easy. No, I'm just kidding.
It looks easy.
It was funny because we decided to sit at the table, and this is actually a very demanding record just to sing in general, but it's kind of like a fun way to show off. Like, I don't even need all my lungs for this, which
In
is fun.
Chicago, backstage, we were like, does Sam's dad sing? Kind of like as a bit, and he was like, yeah. And then they started harmonizing, and it was really crazy to hear that. It was really crazy because I always thought like no one in the world sings like Sam.
Yeah. Well, it comes from somewhere.
Yeah, his dad, I guess.
Your family should adopt him. I'm just saying. Think about it. He sounds like he really wants to be a part of your family. Listen, again, thank you so much for coming today. Even though you had to get up super early at noon to be here, it means so much to us. Where can people follow you? Just shout out your socials and stuff like that so people can stay in touch with you once they listen to this album and fall in love with it.
At From the Bucket Hot, OMG, question mark.
The Bucket Hot.
The Bucket Hot.
Just Google you.
Yeah.
Okay, just Google them. Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Give it up for
Thank
Red
you, guys.
Hearse. We love you. Thank you, everybody watching on YouTube. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more videos from your favorite artist. And while you're here, check out these other videos.